everybody. My name is Abeni Haynes.
And my name is Frederick D. Haynes III.
And this
is the Haynes Remix.
My bad. All right. So, Dad, how are you doing today?
I am doing well, trying to stay sane in this craziness called Project 2025 America.
Yeah, it is crazy. So crazy. I have a headache.
Yeah, I understand.
No, seriously, I do have a headache.
No, seriously, I understand.
Oh, okay, cool. But Dad, in recent weeks, you got some emails from people around the country complaining about one of your members of the church. And I wanted you to see, do you have a clapback for them in light of her outspokenness? And, she's, what do you say? Speaking in another tongue, an unknown tongue. You say that often. So I wanted to take this opening, welcoming segment to, let you get something off your chest.
No, I appreciate it. And I didn't even tell you this. So 2 weeks ago, I forgot why I was speaking, but I'm in a restaurant, minding my business, eating my food, getting ready for my speaking engagement that evening. And someone walks up to me and says, no, they were on the other side of the restaurant. I noticed them looking at me and I could always tell. And so I said, okay, somebody recognizes me, perhaps they're discussing whatever. I never assume it's good or bad. And so he gets up. I can tell he's walking in my direction. And he says, "You Jasmine Crockett's pastor." As I said, "I'm Frederick Haynes." And so I already have an attitude because he didn't say "you Jasmine Crockett's pastor" in a respectful fashion. First, it's Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. And secondly, take the attitude out your voice. And so when he said, "You Jasmine Crockett's pastor," I said, "I'm Frederick D. Haynes III. And then he said, "Yeah, but Jasmine Crockett goes to your church, and she claims you as her pastor." And so I said, "It's Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. Yes, I am her pastor." And then he said, "So you then are someone that we need to be checking because you haven't checked your member and the language she uses." And so I said, "What?" And so that's when he said, "Well, you heard what she said when she was asked about Elon Musk." And so I said, "Oh, yeah, when she said, he can F off." And he said, "You just said it."
Wait, you said the word?
And so he said, well, no wonder. If her pastor's talking like that, then no wonder. I said, you know what really gets me is that you are more upset about the F-bomb that she dropped and that I just quoted, because I'm quoting her. You're more upset about the F-bomb than the fact that Elon Musk, who she referenced, is F-bombing democracy. But you're not upset about that. You're upset about the word, but you're not upset about the actions that have hundreds of thousands of people who are either working in a hostile working environment that you yourself would never want to be subjected to. That's effed up. And then I said, so you have a hostile takeover, you have a hostile work environment that people are subjecting them or have been subjected to because of Elon Musk, and you are more upset about the word than you are about the actions that prompted the word. And so my question is, instead of you judging her pastor, judging her faith, judging her Christianity, then why don't you judge yourself? Because you are the one who's more upset about, and my Bible lets me know that Jesus told a parable about one who said, I'm going to build something, and he didn't build it. Another person said nothing, but went ahead and did what was done. And Jesus said, who then is closer to the kingdom? The one who walked it, as opposed to the one who just talked it, but never got around to walking it. And so in a real sense, you are more upset about words than you are about actions. And the Bible lets us know faith is a verb, an action word. Faith without works is dead. And so what we have going on in this country is a lot of stuff that is harming people. Are you upset about U.S. aid being basically defunded by this administration? Are you upset about what Doji is doing? I call it Doji or doggy because it's dogging too many people. Are you upset about the fact that there are people in third world countries who are in so-called third world countries because of the policies of this country, but now they will not receive aid? So you're not upset about that is effing this world, that is effing this country, that is effing so many people, but you're upset about the word. So my problem is that you have issues, and so I'm not going to use the word right now, but I could say F you because of the fact that you don't have the sense to recognize that words versus works that are going on right now and harming so many of God's children.
Yeah.
And you came to me. You came for me, and I did not send for you. I'm not bothering you. As a matter of fact, you don't even know me. You don't know me, because if you knew me, you would not have approached me like that.
Right.
And the sad thing is that you got problems with what she's saying, write her a letter, and I promise you, she ain't scared. She will clap back at you. Oh, then he said this. He said, so you agree with everything that comes out of her mouth? I said, let me say this. I don't agree with everything that comes out of my mouth sometimes. And so in a real sense, I don't agree with everything anybody says. I've got some policy disagreements with Jasmine Crockett. But I do know one thing, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett is out here fighting, and she's fighting every day. And right now she's fighting the most corrupt administration in the history of this country. And she used a word because the media caught her, said, what do you think of this? And I just want to know, how many times have you said somebody should F off? Silence. Yeah. He said nothing. I said, exactly. And you're not an elected official who has a microphone put in your face at a time that perhaps you weren't ready. And I'm not justifying anything, but at the same time, I'm not attacking her, because I know she's attacking the policies that this man represents that are reprehensible and that are harming so many people in this country, including folk who look like you.
Yeah, that's good. Well, this is awkward because you're supposed to be doing, inspirational word next.
I can roll.
Oh, okay. Well, cool. It's time for
the Haynes Remix.
All right, guys. So my dad is about to break down some scripture for you all after he done told somebody to almost F you or whatever. But anyway, Dad, what is the remix for today?
Well, it's very appropriate. Jesus says in Matthew 23:23, woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, for you tithe anise, cumin, and mint. That's what you should have done. But you omit the weightier matters of the law, justice, mercy, and faith. Now, let's back up and look at that word woe. The word woe in the original language is basically saying, damn you. It's basically saying, I condemn you. It's basically saying, to hell with you. I could go further if you want me to, but we're trying to keep it holy and nice. But what Jesus is saying, that basically you are so religious and righteous that you tithe the smallest of the flavorings. Cumin, anise, mint, real small. You do 1/10 of that in contributing to the offering. But when it comes to the weightier matters of the law, justice, mercy, faith, you ignore all of those. Justice, it's love showing up in public policy, in systems and structures. Justice, it's making right what has wronged so many people so that they all have an opportunity from the right vantage point to fulfill their possibility. That's justice. Mercy, it's looking beyond someone's situation and providing for them exactly what they need so that they can rise above the situation that they are in because your heart is in the right place. Justice, mercy, and what? Faith, which simply means you faithfully do what it is God has called you to do. This is really interesting to me. The weightier matters of the law, Jesus says when you ignore the weightier matters, when you're not fighting for justice for those who've been victimized by injustice, when you're not extending compassion, love, and mercy for those who are suffering and hurting, when you are not faithful in doing what it is you are supposed to do, he says, damn you. Whoa, to hell with you. Jesus says this, and so it's very important that we take a good look at how we understand what's important to God. What's important to God, seek first the kingdom of God and his justice is really the best translation. And all of these things will be added unto you. What's really important to God is justice. And of course, Jesus is building upon the Hebrew tradition, which basically says, what does God require of you but to do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God? And so what Jesus is basically saying, if you ain't doing that, woe unto you. And so if I were to ever see that brother again, I would just see him. Matter of fact, next time I see Congresswoman Crockett, I'm going to say, if somebody asks you about Elon Musk or Donald Trump, just say, whoa.
That's the remix.
That's the remix.
All right. So, Dad. This episode is entitled, Who Are You Listening To?
Right.
Because there's a lot of, like you always say, misinformation and disinformation that's going on. And in recent weeks or months, we've seen that there was some legislation in Louisiana. Yeah, that 50 Cent was backing.
Yeah.
And so I think we should have like a conversation around, you know, our big cultural figures and how I think we put a lot of weight on, you know, who they are. And so there's a lot of gravity in what they do and what we listen to. Now, luckily, and if you could break down the legislation, that would be great. But luckily, Louisiana did not listen to 50 Cent. And they came out in droves and they voted against several pieces of legislation that would have been very detrimental to their communities. So could you talk a little bit about what happened in Louisiana, and then also your thoughts around like our cultural figures, figures. I don't know what's wrong with my tongue today. And do you think that we should look to them for certain information and beliefs and everything?
Yeah, and I thank you for that. And I want to shout out Gary Chambers. Gary Chambers is a brother who is always about it. And some of you may recall, especially during the pandemic when we were quarantined, that Gary Chambers called Connie out. And I saw him recently. And I said, man, whenever I need a laugh, I just remember and I go on YouTube and watch you go in on Connie. And so one of the things that happened, though, recently is that Louisiana, and I just want to shout out, Louisiana did the thing because in response to and there were 4 pieces of 4 propositions that were on the ballot, and 50 Cent, who recently bought property in Shreveport. And to his credit, what he's doing there is setting up a movie studio. He's doing big things so that, Shreveport can benefit. He's going to generate jobs. So I'm not hating on him for that. But what I do have issue with is the fact that 50 backed Proposition 2, I believe it was, and this proposition was going to do damage to not only those who need the most, but it was going to basically do harm to the very people that 50 looks like in the state of Louisiana. And he did not have a conversation with Gary Chambers. He did not have a conversation with on-the-ground black leadership. But evidently, the business community got in his ear, who he had been in conversation with to get the property that he bought there in Shreveport. And so here comes 50. And let me just say, here's someone who, when it comes to his rap lyrics, when it comes to his, Power series, listen, I've been watching. And so it's a big, rich town. I just come from the poorest part. And then, I never took a straight path nowhere.
Okay.
Life's full of twists and turns, bumps and bruises.
Okay, you're not a rapper.
I live, I learn.
Let's wrap this up. Okay,
all right.
Cool.
All right, I got a little excited. But no, so I'm down with that. But what I'm not down with is when you parachute in to a community without talking to the community, and then you basically allow the white power structure to co-opt your power, co-opt your influence, and when they do that, you end up on the wrong side of history. You end up on the wrong side of an issue. And that's exactly what happened in Louisiana. The good news is, again, Gary Chambers and so many others were on the ground, organizing, listening to people, talking to people, educating the community as to what the propositions were about and the damage they would bring, the harm they would bring to the community, to the state, while benefiting only those who were rich. And so I'm so proud of them because they did the right thing, but I'm concerned about the 50 cents. I'm concerned about, I said it wrong, 50 Cent. I'm concerned about every 4 years, and again, NWA back in the day was killing it. But why is it every 4 years during the presidential election, here comes my boy Ice Cube representing the people? And who have you, what people have you talked to? And I think that's the concern that I want to raise when we talk about who we listen to. Let's begin with, we listen to those who listen to us. Mm-hmm. If you're not listening to the people, if the people only see you when an election comes around and all of a sudden you have a position, an endorsement to make, but you haven't listened to us, we shouldn't listen to you. Mm-hmm. So I think that I begin right there with your celebrity does not give you authority for an endorsement that I'm supposed to back if I've never heard from you. Right. And more than that, if you've never heard from me. And that, what happened in Louisiana for me is a metaphor. It's an illustration of what we can do going forward. And that is, we say to every celebrity, listen, if you're going to use your celebrity for the people, Cool in the gang. We're with you. If you're going to walk in the footsteps of Harry Belafonte, if you're going to walk in the footsteps of Nina Simone, Aretha Franklin, if you're going to walk in their footsteps, oh yeah, we want to hear from you. But if you basically are only looking out for yourself, then, don't parachute in here, because we're going to send you back where you came from.
Well, and I think also we've seen kind of a shift from people listening to celebrities a bit with even how the last election turned out. I think Kamala's, a part of her strategy, because a part of her team was that of the Obama team and his campaign. And they really tapped into the celebrity. And so, we saw Beyonce, we saw Kelly Rowland, we saw Cardi B, we saw just all of these people. And
the people on the ground, we didn't see them.
Right.
Because there were people, and so since you're going there, let's just go there. There were so many of us who were actually doing the work on the ground. And not only that, we ain't getting paid, but we're doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do.
Right.
And yet you didn't see us being invited to those settings. You didn't see people on the ground being supported. And as a consequence, again, Beyonce can sing, shout out to her. She's the greatest entertainer we got right now.
I love them.
Exactly.
And their politics normally align with mine. So I don't think it's not an indictment on them. I think it's more an indictment on our political system and just who they think people are listening to.
Right. Right. And it's really an indictment on them because they're insulting our intelligence. It's like you can throw a celebrity at us and we'll be so mesmerized by celebrity that we automatically vote for you. We automatically follow you. And we are not listening to what your policies are. We're not hearing your vision. But as long as you give us a celebrity, you got us. That's whack, that's dumb, that's stupid, and we are politically mature as a people. I want to know, what is your vision? I want to know, does your vision align with my vision? And more than that, I want to know, have you even talked to me? Have you talked to someone who I can relate to, who has shared with you what our needs are, as opposed to talking down to us? And that's what I want to indict the Democratic Party for. They talk down to us, and then you have the Republican Party. They either ignore us, talk bad about us, or just are blatantly racist toward us. And so you have those two options right there.
They don't want us to vote.
Exactly. Republicans don't want us to vote. Democrats say, we don't want your voice. We just want your vote.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Anything else on who we should be listening to? Before No. We'll get into who we should be listening to, but who we are listening to currently. Yeah.
Well, I think that we're listening to those who make sense.
Well, yeah, really quick rewind.
Okay.
Of course, I'm a faithful listener to The Breakfast Club. And a few weeks ago, they were talking about, it was something. Roland Martin called them out. I think they were talking about, the whole, what's the security gate? What are we going to call it? Signal gate. They were talking about the journalist exposing, the messages that he was put in a group message.
War plans.
Right. And he even went about it, and he didn't initially share the war plans.
Exactly.
And so on the Breakfast Club, Envy, he was just saying, well, shouldn't he want to protect his country and not release that information, keep it to himself, because that jeopardizes our safety and everything, which the guy, he actually didn't initially share the intricacies of what was going on in the text messages. And so Roland Martin called the Breakfast Club out, and he went off on them, talking about the role of a journalist and why journalism exists. And so there are times, like even with the Breakfast Club, is like I'll get information from them and I don't necessarily agree. So when we're listening to these types of platforms, when we're tuned into the, celebrities, and even Fox News, they spread misinformation and disinformation.
That's their job.
All of the time. Yeah. And yet aren't they the highest rated news network?
Highest rated network.
Yeah, everybody seems to watch them. So how do we decipher the news that we receive? How do we fact check and get our sources correct?
I appreciate that. Jemele Hill is one of my favorite journalists. And I read her memoir, and she went to Michigan State. She's a proud Michigan State Spartan. And one of the things that she said that she learned, that turned her on to journalism while at Michigan State is the fact that real journalists are the watchdogs of society. Mm-hmm. What do watchdogs do? They protect. What do watchdogs do? They bark. What do watchdogs do? They have a bite if you get too close. And so that metaphor for me basically says it all. I'm listening to journalists who are performing the duty of a watchdog. That means that journalist is not afraid to critique, to bring about an analysis of what the policies are and what the politician is doing. And as a consequence of that courage to confront and critique, I can listen to them because they're performing watchdog duties. And so I just want to know, who are the watchdogs out there? We know Fox News, Fix News. You brought them up. What they're doing, they're not a watchdog. They are like the little, pet who just basically does whatever the politician says they're supposed to do. Yeah. They have no fear whatsoever because the politician owns them, as it were. I would also say that, sadly, I can't even rock with MSNBC now because of what they did to Joy Reid. I was listening to Joy Reid because Joy Reid was the one person on basically all of the network news stations that would actually offer a critique of this nation's policy of what's going on in Gaza, in Palestine, and in Israel. And now Joy Reid is no longer on that station. Mm-hmm. And so I can't rock with. And so I think it's important that we recognize our power to withdraw our viewership from any news platform that does not act as a watchdog. I need a watchdog guarding democracy, a watchdog that guards the American public from the prowlers of disinformation, misinformation, fake news. I need a watchdog. And so it's very important. I thank God for Roland Martin because Roland Martin, he basically is funding his own operation, and Roland Martin is serving as that watchdog for us. And so when it comes to who I'm listening to.
Well, we'll get into that next.
Okay, that's cool.
So let's just let the jingle rock and then we get back.
Okay, I'm with it.
Okay, Dad, so you're getting excited, sharing who you're listening to. Mm-hmm. You just shouted out Roland Martin.
Yeah.
Well, can I throw something in there?
Please.
Recently, I think we're in April. Anyway, April Fool's Day happened, of course. And I recently told you on a recent episode about this TikTok channel that I watch. This guy who basically breaks down how much money each person gets in Congress and where it's coming from. So if it's PAC, corporate, individual donors, large donors. And so anyway, he played a joke on everybody for April Fool's Day. He put up a picture of just some random white guy. He said he was a Republican from Florida's 29th district, I believe. And he said that we're going to be reviewing how much money that he gets today. And then he proceeds to he doesn't call the audience. He said he kind of said you're kind of dumb or stupid if you believe me, because Florida does not have a 29th district. I made this up. And he basically checked his viewers and even checked me, because sometimes I can admit I'll see something online, and if it plays into my belief system already, I'm ready to share it, believe it, like it, you know, all of the above.
That's a good
and
point.
He said, you know, there's so many news channels here on TikTok, on social media, and it's important that you check your sources. So don't just take my word for it. And so I really appreciated him for that. Good. Because he checked the people who we tune into him all the time, and we, you know, love his content, but he's just like, don't just take my word for it. Go and check for yourself. Good. So I wanted to shout, it's stocking the Capitol. That's what he is on TikTok. So if you all ever want to find out what your Congress people are making, I would, you know, look at that. Yeah.
No, I think that's really important, because one of the things that has happened in this country, we've been socialized to not critically think for ourselves. We have defunded public education to the point where civics education is not a part of the required educational process. And then at least when I came up, we had not just civics, but we had, you know, Schoolhouse Rock that told us how to get a bill on Capitol Hill. And all of that has been snatched because we live in a country, and I want to suggest that the Republicans are determined that we not think. They're determined that we basically go along to get along. And so it's very important that we not only check sources, but now it's important that we learn to recapture what it means to critically think, to engage in political analysis, to listen to more than one side of a conversation, one side of what's being discussed around an issue. One of the things that, you know, just really tripped me out was to go back in the day to John Lewis's apartment in D.C. and had a wonderful conversation with him. And then I saw on the wall, he had this television and Fox News is on. I said, what are you doing watching Fox News?
Exactly.
And he said, I want to know what they're saying. I want to know what they're thinking, because I can't argue with them if I only operate in my echo chamber. And this country has become the politics of echo chambers. Is basically where we are in this country, as you just said so brilliantly. And that is, it's very easy to rock with and respond to someone who is normally saying what you believe in, that you feel, and the next thing you know, whatever they're saying, it's feeding your politics, it's feeding your political sensibilities, and as a consequence, that's what you're going to go with. But here it is. We're being socialized to not think, but to just dwell in our political echo chamber, and as a consequence, we are not thinking for ourselves. We're not even envisioning what the nation should look like, because all we're doing is fighting and getting angry in our own political echo chamber about what the other echo chamber is saying or doing, because my echo chamber continues to feed and fuel my political IQ sensibilities and sensitivities. And I want to suggest that's dangerous, because you're not thinking for yourself.
So, not to recommend,
right,
but who do you tend to get your news information from? And I'll share mine as well.
No, I think it's good. First, one of the things I try to do at least 3 times a week is watch C-SPAN, so that I can hear unfiltered, what is happening in Congress.
You know who I'm surprised you didn't say immediately?
Who?
You don't know?
No.
Oh, really? Breathe it in.
Oh yeah. Loretta Daniel Favors. And the whole, Urban View. I am an Urban View fan. I'm an Urban View junkie. And so Loretta Daniel Favors, Karen Hunter, who is the architect of all of it, not to mention the amazing Howard professor Greg Carr. Those are persons I definitely listen to, but before I listen to them, I check out C-SPAN because I want to hear an unfiltered version of the politics of the day. And so it was important to me. Recently, Cory Booker, shout out to my brother because he broke a record held by
a racist,
a white supremacist, Confederate racist, Strom Thurmond. He broke Strom Thurmond's record. And not only that, he did it with real content. Unlike Ted Cruz, when he engaged in his sick filibuster, he read Dr. Seuss because that's where his mind is. But Cory Booker, he was actually raising issues. He was actually reading the letters of constituents. But where do you get that from? You get that C-SPAN. You get that when you find yourself checking unfiltered means of receiving your politics. And so that's where I start. I start with, where can I get my unfiltered viewing of what's happening, especially in D.C. And again, that's why I'll go to C-SPAN. But as you said, so you're on point. I'm going to listen to Urban View because I like what they're saying, and they are unapologetic in their blackness.
Right. And also, you said this maybe some months ago, maybe last year, a few years ago, but I asked you why you had started watching CBS News in the morning, because for the most part, you talked about how it was unfiltered. They just delivered the news really didn't, up until because I don't watch them as much, but what's his name?
Yeah.
When they did
Tony DeCopo,
Yeah, when they did the Ta-Nehisi Coates interview.
And he showed his colors.
Right, and he showed what side that he landed on. So, yeah, for the most part, it seems like you go with unfiltered sources.
Yeah, and that's why I like Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Oh, yeah.
I love that about Roland. Roland is unfiltered, and he's basically giving it to you straight, no chaser. And as far as I'm concerned, it allows you to think for yourself.
That's true. So, do you want to know who I listen to?
Please.
Okay, so, my
The
phone
Breakfast Club?
stopped. Well, not for my news, Dad.
Thank you.
I
just wanted you to say that.
I listen to them. Sometimes I believe in, we share the same views sometimes for the most part.
Right.
I also really like, and I know but I think he does a really good job of holding both sides accountable, and that's Jon Stewart. I love me some Jon Stewart.
Yeah,
and he gives the news in a very digestible format. It's funny and hilarious. He's great. Like I said, stalking the Capitol on TikTok. There's also, I'm trying to scroll through my screen real quick, but there's also this white woman on TikTok, and she delivers the news straight. She doesn't give her opinion, but she lets her audience know exactly what's going on. And my phone isn't working, Dad, and it's really upsetting. I probably have sent you her stuff before, but her and the Daily Show, for the most part, I love the way that they deliver the news. I think that's about it. Yeah, that's all I got for you.
No, but I understand. And I'm going to tell you what's really sad. We have all of these opportunities now to receive news, so much more than when I was coming up. I'm a kid, and we got CBS, NBC, and ABC. That's all we had. And now we have so many more news mediums, and yet we basically are right, left, some middle. And so we ain't got no more than we had before. And all of this contributes to the demise of the American empire, because an unintelligent populace is dangerous. An unintelligent populace sets the stage for fascism. It sets the stage for what we're witnessing right now. Because here's this, and I'll say this right quick. One of the things that scares me in this season is that there are so many people who feel helpless as Trump is engaging in his bombardment, flooding the zone, some say, of what's happening, in the country with his executive orders creating disorder. And we feel like we can't do anything when his executive orders, in so many instances, are illegal.
Yeah.
We got power. We just don't know it and we don't use it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I thought you were going to keep going. But anyway, I found her.
Okay.
And I want to give you another one. So there's a guy, Under the Desk News, also on TikTok. He leans left, you can tell, but still just delivers the news. And I feel like at times he gives action items behind it. So what people can do, especially around, TikTok and the bans that it has been going through. And then also the news girl, that's her name on TikTok. She just delivers the news straight. And so I think that is really important. And I'm just, with this conversation, I'm noticing the news that I am intaking. And how I kind of have been, dibbling and dabbling in some unfiltered stuff. So I'm proud of myself.
Go ahead, Ab. Go ahead. You bad.
Thanks. Well, this was a very good conversation, Dad.
I've enjoyed it. And I think my hope and prayer is that we feel it's okay to think for ourselves.
Right. And be critical thinkers. And to not just take everything at face value.
Right.
And I think one more thing, because I'm going to say this publicly. I've been saying it on my social media. But, there have been some policies that, I have not agreed with our Congresswoman, Jasmine Crockett. And I'll just say somebody was very upset with me calling her out on social media. And it's just like, okay, I understand she's your congresswoman and we support her through and through. However, we can still critically think for ourselves and hold her accountable.
Right.
Because just because we want her to do well, we want her to continue fighting and standing up for us, does not mean we're going to agree with everything that she believes in or that she votes for.
Thank you.
You know what I mean?
Of course. I mean, see, here's the thing that I want us to get delivered from, and that is the politics of cults. Right now, there is a Trump cult and he said it himself when he's running for president. Tripped me out that he would have the nerve to say this, but it's proven to be true. He could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue in New York, and his followers would still follow him.
Right.
That is a cult following.
Yeah.
And I don't care what side, left or right, if you feel that the person you support cannot be criticized, cannot be challenged, cannot be held accountable. Jasmine Crockett wants to be held accountable. Any politician with sense who is a good steward of their power, they want to be held accountable because guess what? We call them elected representatives.
Right, they work for us.
They work for us. In a real sense, here's the thing, Larry Daniel Favor says this so well, and that is we hire them with our votes. So when I hire you to work for me, then I have a job description I want you to fulfill, and if you don't fulfill the job description, I'm going to put you on probation. I'm going to have something to say about what you're doing. And so that means it's really okay. So please, y'all, let's get delivered. We don't want to talk about the cult on the other side and become a part of a cult on our side.
Yeah, that's true. Well, let's get ready to wrap it up, okay?
Hey, I'm with you.
Well, thank you all so much for tuning in today. I hope you found this enlightening. I hope you're critically thinking. And if you don't agree with us, that's okay, because guess what? That means you are thinking for yourself. So,
critically thinking.
Yes. Please be sure to check us out on my dad's website, fdhministries.org/the-Haynes Remix. Also follow us on social media at The Haynes Remix. And then my social media is at Abeni Jewel. That's ABENIJEWEL.
And mine is at FH Unscripted.
Yes. And so next week,
Oh,
it's going to be a little bit more fun. We about to have fun.
Next week is going to be interesting because, y'all, we are in that season. You got NBA playoffs. You got a whole lot of stuff. Baseball's going on. Spring camp and football. It's just a lot going on. And so we're going to have a conversation about we're going to have a top 10 debate. How can our sports and culture figures stand up in light of what is going on in today's times? And do our sports figures have a duty to do more off the court and field just as they star on the field?
Yes. So I'm Abeni Haynes.
And I am Frederick D. Haynes III. And this was the Haynes Remix.